Well, when you hear that noise, you know that it's time for Alex Garrett Podcasting. And today, I want to give you one little sound effect, which to me describes how the Giants' offseason has gone. Give me 1 second here. It's actually fizzled out. It's gone cold. It's just not been a hot stove because Lou Terminello, real quickly here, you now lose Judge, now you lose Correa. I mean, they might say it's a physical, but we both know it was more than that. Welcome to another Terminello's Take.
Alex, thank you, as always, for having me. Yes, it is very, very strange what actually happened in San Francisco this free agency season. It looked like they had Judge in their sights and it looked like he was going to sign with them, and then that fell apart. This Carlos Correa, the original agreed to terms of 13 years, $350 million, obviously seemed to be a little over the top, but they were reacting to losing Judge, and they had to do something for their fans. And then what happened yesterday when the press conference was postponed, was canceled, that's when the red flags went up. They were saying that something in his physical is, obviously he has had back issues. He's been on the IL 7 times in his 8-year career, so that did set up a red flag. But when I woke up this morning, I did not anticipate that at 2:30 or 2:43, I guess, was the official announcement that the Mets had signed Carlos Correa. I know they got in on the Correa bidding late, too late. They were the Giants and Correa were way down the road. But this is a very interesting acquisition. I don't like the term. 12 years is way too long for any player unless he's 20 years old or 22 years old. It's very interesting. I don't know where from a Giants aspect, I don't know where they go from here. Most of the difference-making free agents are gone. And
well, they
I don't know
are.
what they
And
tell
by the
their
way,
fans.
I know
I would love to hear some San Francisco sports talk radio today, my friend.
I know you want to rant about the fact that you've got guys signing for 10, 11 years or more, and even Correa 12 years for all this money, and you're thinking it's kind of diluting the sport. I think that's the impression you gave me on the phone.
Yeah, first of all, it's no good for the sport. I've been saying that since free agency came into play. Whether it's going back to Steinbrenner just spending crazily, and we've had teams, the Dodgers have done it. It's no good for the sport because as we sit here in the East, where it is freezing today, the Kansas City Royals, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Cincinnati Reds, probably the Milwaukee Brewers, we can name 10 teams that know really by Thanksgiving that they have no chance. Yes, there's been those blips where they were able to develop enough players to be successful for a 2 or 3 year period, like the Royals were back-to-back American League pennants in 14 and 15, winning the World Series in 15. The Pirates going to the playoffs 3-4 years in a row, but they lost their guys. Once their guys got to free agency, got to that 6-year free agency level with the Pirates, McCutchen, Garrett Cole, just to name two off the top of my head, they lost them. The same thing with the Royals. Kane, Hosmer, Moustakis. They lost them. They couldn't keep them. And that's what's wrong with Major League Baseball. Yeah, it's great. I'm a Mets fan. It's great that the Mets have done a great job. They never had more than $160 million payroll with the old regime. Now they've spent 33%, I think I heard, more than anybody else in the division. And that being said, even what the Mets did, the one thing this does, everybody says, well, they have to win the World Series. Well, anybody could lose 4 out of 7. I mean, we saw that with the Dodgers last year. We saw that with the Dodgers when they lost, in the past. So, but the thing is, the Mets are now in a position where they'll never be bad with this owner, and they shouldn't be. but I don't think it's good for Major League Baseball. That's just me.
One thing about the Giants, by the way, is they're celebrating the 10-year anniversaries of their World Series 2010, 12, 14, this whole stretch here, the next few years. What a change. But people forget, they were in the 100-plus win category against the Dodgers just 2 years ago. So it's not that they're completely falling apart. It's just that over the last year or so, it's been bad, and now this adds to it, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, 2 years ago, they won 107 games. Everything went right as far as all of their complementary plays. They were basically a team made of complementary plays. They all came through. They all had good years. And they still had Buster Posey. And they still had a decent pitching staff. But I don't know where they go. I mean, they're a franchise that's not going to be down for a long time. It's a major market. Yes, their attendance has dwindled last year, but they just have to if they make a couple of acquisitions down the road, do they go after Ohtani? I don't know. When he becomes a free agent at the end of next year. Apparently Ohtani wants to stay on the West Coast, but I'm telling you right now, as much money as the Mets have spent, I'm going to say that they are probably the favorites to get Ohtani. Billy Epler was the guy who signed him when he was the part of the signing process of Ohtani going to the Los Angeles Angels. Epler was in the front office for the Angels. He was involved in that situation. There's a very, very good chance that the Mets are going to be very, very much in play for Ohtani. I don't care. Obviously, Steve Cohen doesn't care how much luxury tax he pays. And everybody tries to say that the luxury tax acts as a salary cap. It's not the same as a hard salary cap. Look at the other sports where we have a salary cap. You can't get a guy. I mean, look at in the National Hockey League. You can't if you need to add a scoring forward, you can't unless you shed salary. You can't pay a tax. Same thing in the NFL. I mean, baseball. This is the problem with baseball, and that's why I really believe while it's exciting, free agency is exciting where a guy's going to sign. It also is one of the reasons why I think baseball is falling into becoming a niche sport, not the national sport like the National Football League.
Well, because it's kind of expected these bigger teams are going to buy out, right? That's kind of what you're saying here?
Well, absolutely. A couple of years ago, Tampa Bay beat Kansas City in the Super Bowl. Okay. Those are two, what we would consider in baseball, small market teams. That would never happen in baseball over a consistent period. It just wouldn't. We can go down the road.
But that's why we love those underdog teams of Philly who actually bolstered themselves this offseason. And, of course, the story of Washington from 2019 upsetting the big dog at Houston. I mean, those little teams, I guess you can't call them little, but those teams that you don't expect could still make a run. And that's kind of why the expanded playoffs is kind of exciting because we're seeing that these littler teams that aren't paying as much still make runs at these different
right, but Washington, titles. Remember, Washington spent a lot of money on their team. Scherzer, their payroll was competitive to fight the quote-unquote the big teams. So, but I don't think it's good for baseball overall. But for a Met fan who has been getting their head beaten in by the Yankees for 50 years because the Yankees spend money, no, this is a great day. It is. And if Correa doesn't pan out, he's going to do what the Yankees did for a lot of their free agent signings. He's just going to flush it down the toilet and sign the next guy. Now, I still hope I don't think it'll ever happen because the players' union is probably the strongest union around. But if you have to have some kind of limitations, you have to have some kind of cap. That's just my opinion. We're never going to see it, but that's my opinion.
One last thing, then I got to get back to my radio job, but I wanted to just cover first baseball. Then we'll do everything else on Friday after the Jets game. Captain of the Yankees, Aaron Judge, 16th captain. Predictable, but does that mean the Mets now make a move to make a captain as well?
That I don't know. I mean, I think Aaron Judge is the logical guy to be captain of the Yankees. I think the Yankees are probably going to do it anyway, but I also think that the media kind of said, well, he's going to be captain of the Yankees. He's going to be captain of the Yankees. So I think that fell into play there. Again, he's a natural. I think he is the natural person to be the captain of the Yankees. I think he'll do a good job. Obviously, he's the face of the franchise. He's the face of Major League Baseball. Going into next season, he's got to be the number one player in baseball as far as best all-around player, in my opinion. So we'll see. But just getting back to the Mets quickly with this signing. This doesn't mean that the Mets are going to finish first in the NL East. The Braves are still very good. The Mets and Braves battled. They both had 101 wins last year. But the Braves have great players, and they're all still in their non-free agent contract. They're still under their 6-year MLB experience. So that's where it gets skewed a little bit as far as payrolls go. Because once these guys get to 6 years for the Braves, are they going to be able to keep Michael Harris and Spencer Strider and Acuna and Vaughn Grissom, who's probably going to play shortstop for them this next year? They signed these guys to long-term deals, but they're going to see what these other guys are getting. They're either going to ask for, to have their negotiations reopened. It's a very interesting, complicated time in Major League Baseball, and we'll see. And the Mets signed all these guys, didn't have to give up any draft picks. They didn't sign one guy with a qualifying offer who had a qualifying offer. I think they did their due diligence, but we'll see what happens. And let's see what happens with some of the guys that are on the precipice of making the team, like Francisco Alvarez, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, who were up at the end of last year. We'll see. Are they trade bait? What do they do with Escobar? Does Escobar become their DH? Interesting. It makes it interesting if you're a local sports guy, but in the landscape of Major League Baseball, I don't know how positive it is for the game, but that's just me.
Well, Lou, thanks so much. And we're going to do this again on Friday with a full Terminello take on everything else, but I want to get your baseball breakdown for starters. So thank you. And also, side note, thank you for your leadership at 970. I becoming interim production at the moment. That's part of your doing because you got me here. So thank you, sir.
Oh, you're very welcome, and I'm sure you're going to do. I'm sure you're doing great. So keep up the good work.
That was Terminello's take on Alex Garrett's Sports Spotlight. We'll talk to you soon.